before Earth could prove itself to the galaxy. The Council gave it an impossible test. Millions of refugees were sent to one empty desert. The Council expected fear, chaos, and failure. But one human commander refused to build a camp. He chose to build a city. The first city of return, Owen Rourke was counting water valves when the sky over Red Basin changed color. He stood knee-deep in dust beside a half-buried service trench, holding a tablet that had already lost signal twice that morning. Around him, Earth crews were marking lines for pipes, anchors, field clinics, and temporary shelters. The place looked too empty for the task waiting inside it. Red Basin sat in the western interior of North America, on Earth, in a dry bowl of old salt flats and dead solar farms. Years earlier, heat waves and failed reservoirs had emptied the region. Now Earth had chosen it because no major city would have to be cleared, no farmland would be taken, and the scars were already there. Owen was the civilian reconstruction commander assigned to turn those scars into a reception zone. On paper, his job was simple. Prepare Red Basin for refugees from several outer systems, keep them alive, and keep Earth from looking unprepared before the Galaxy Council. In practice, he had 3 days, half the promised materials, and a council observation feed watching every mistake. The first warning came from a young engineer at the trench edge. "Commander Rourke, the arrival corridor just moved forward." Owen looked up. High above the pale basin, the clouds had begun to glow with a faint blue shimmer. That was not weather. That was orbital traffic, too much of it, entering too soon. "How far forward?" Owen asked. 29 hours. He did not answer at once. The crews around him kept working, but their rhythm changed. Hammers slowed. Drivers stopped shouting. Everyone looked at the sky because everyone understood the same thing. The refugees were coming before the city existed. A second message flashed on Owen's tablet, stamped with the seal of the Galaxy Council. It was not a request. It was a declaration. Under the Emergency Humanitarian Transfer Program, Earth would receive the first wave. Immediately, the stability mandate was now active. Earth had 60 days to prove that Red Basin could support a stable multi-species settlement. If Earth failed, Council authority would remove the refugees, separate them by species classification, and relocate them to manage containment habitats across Council space. Owen read it twice. The words were smooth. The meaning was not. If Earth refused, Earth would be condemned as morally false. If Earth accepted and failed, Earth would be declared unfit for interstellar humanitarian responsibility. If Earth built nothing more than a camp, the Council would say humans had confused pity with civilization. A voice behind him said, "They sent the mandate before they sent the medical files." Owen turned. Lena Ortiz, Earth Data Systems engineer, had dust on her cheek and a cable coil over one shoulder. She was young enough to still look surprised by corruption, but not naive enough to miss it. "What do we get?" Owen asked. "Partial rosters, broken species tags, nutritional files without dosage ranges. Some atmosphere profiles contradict themselves. Accidental." Lena gave him a tired look. "Not this many." Owen looked back at the basin. Survey flags snapped in the dry wind. Beyond them, the empty ground stretched for kilometers. It was easy to imagine the council chamber far away, clean and cold, full of polished voices saying Earth had volunteered to lead. Earth had not volunteered. Earth had been cornered in public. The first ships opened in the afternoon. They came down in staggered lines, silver-bellied transports with council markings painted on the side, and no council personnel willing to step onto the dust. Their ramps lowered in a heat that blurred the horizon. The first refugees did not walk like people entering safety. They walked like people waiting for the next order to hurt. Owen watched them come down. Keth families moved in tight clusters, their skin damp under portable mist packs. Valen passengers shielded their pale eyes from the light, shaking under dark veils. Sorry workers clutched nutrient filters to their chests because Earth food could make them sick. Dren adults stood apart, tall and stone-faced, carrying tools made from black composite and watching every armed guard as if measuring escape routes. To the cameras overhead, there were numbers. To Owen, They were already a city that did not know its own streets. A council observer drone descended near the landing line. Its speaker opened with a calm, distant voice. Commander Owen Rourke, please confirm Earth accepts full custodial responsibility under the stability mandate. One of Owen's deputies whispered, "Do not answer in the open. They are recording for broadcast." Owen knew that. He also knew silence would be edited. He stepped closer to the drone and kept his voice even. Earth accepts responsibility for every person placed on this ground. Earth does not accept that people are cargo. We will register them as residents, not inventory. The drone paused as if searching for a category. Council records identify them as humanitarian transfer units. Then your records are wrong. That line traveled faster than the dust. By sunset, Councillor Ver Malvec appeared on every major interstellar channel. He was narrow-faced, silver-eyed, and famous for speaking cruelty in the tone of public duty. Behind him stood the seal of the Galaxy Council and a row of flags from older member worlds. Earth has chosen a noble burden, Malvec said. We respect compassion, but compassion without stability is merely another form of danger. The Council must protect vulnerable refugees from human overconfidence. Owen watched the broadcast inside a temporary command tent while crews outside tried to separate the first arrivals by urgent need. Malvec never said he wanted Earth to fail. He did not have to. Every phrase had been built to leave a clean path for blame. Lena muted the screen. He is starting before we have water pressure. He planned to, Owen said. A logistics officer entered with the first complete landing estimate. His face told Owen enough before he spoke. More ships tomorrow. Twice the count. The council changed the order. Dren and Valen in the same wave. Owen looked at the map on the table. The planned reception area was a neat set of color blocks. It already felt dishonest. Clear the camp. Labels, he said. The officer blinked. Sir, stop calling it Camp Red. From now on, this is Harbor City. With respect, there is no city. There will be if we design for one now. Camps teach people to wait for permission. Cities teach people where they belong. No one spoke. Outside, a child cried in a language no Earth translator had loaded yet. Owen heard it and tightened his jaw. He did not like speeches. He trusted pipes, beds, kitchens, clinics, roads, and people who came back for the second shift. But there were moments when a decision had to be named before it could become real. Every row gets a street grid, he said. Every shelter gets an address. Every medical file gets checked by a human and a refugee volunteer. We build kitchens by diet, not by species rank. We assign work only after safety review. And no one gets called a transfer unit again. The room changed. Not with hope. Hope was too easy. It changed with fear becoming work. By the second day, Harbor City began with chalk lines and dust. By the fifth, it began to break. The council had sent too many people too fast. The first water towers groaned under loads meant for half the population. Portable filters clogged with minerals from Red Basin's dead aquifer. The Keth humidity domes stole condensation from the Valen cool tents. Sorry nutrition packs arrived in crates marked for another species. Dren families were placed near a security corridor because council files had marked them as high risk, which meant everyone stared at them before they had done anything. Owen walked the city from before sunrise until long after dark. He did not ride unless he had to. People trusted a commander less when he only appeared through glass. He entered Clinic Row on day 7 and found 3 corridors full. An Earth nurse named Priya Sandoval caught him by the sleeve before he could ask for numbers. We need separate air curtains in Bay 4. The Valen are reacting to Keth humidity. I told Council Medical 3 times. Move them. To where? That was the question of the week. Move them to where? Feed them with what? Treat them with which medicine? House them beside whom? Every answer created another problem. Owen looked at the patients breathing behind thin masks. Their eyes followed him with anger and terror. They did not know him. They knew only that another authority had put them in another place that hurt. Use the supply dome, he said. Priya stared. That holds half our spare filters. Move the filters under guard to Road 9. Put the Valen there tonight. Road 9 has no walls. It will by morning. He turned to leave, and a Valen elder grabbed his wrist. The elder's fingers were cold and very light. "Are we being sorted again?" the elder asked through a translator bead. Owen crouched so the man did not have to look up. "No, that is what the last authority said." "Then I will give you something better than my word. By tomorrow, your shelter number will not change without your council representative present." The elder searched his face. "My what?" "Your council representative. From your own people. We are forming resident councils tonight." The elder did not thank him. Trust was not built that quickly. But he let go. Outside the clinic, Lena was waiting with her tablet held close to her chest. "I found the first pattern," she said. Owen stepped away from the doorway. "Tell me." "The Valen respiratory files say they tolerate Keth humidity for short periods." "That is wrong. Their old immigration data says it can injure them in under an hour." "Could be outdated records." "Then why did the council send the old records to themselves and the wrong records to us?" Owen did not answer. Dust moved along the road like low smoke. Lena continued. "The sorry food crates are mislabeled too. The correct labels were overwritten in transit. The Dren security tags have no incident logs attached, only risk scores. It is like someone stripped context from every group most likely to cause fear." Owen looked toward the drone tower at the edge of the landing field. Council cameras watched the clinic entrance. They would capture patients coughing, Earth staff shouting, refugees crying, and workers moving crates in panic. They would not capture the wrong file that caused it. "Copy everything," he said. "Offline. No council network. You think this is deliberate. I think the council built a test and delivered the answer key to itself." By day 10, Earth began to turn on Harbor City. The first protests started in towns near Red Basin. Then they spread to feeds across the planet. Some people shouted hate. Most did not. Most looked tired, frightened, and betrayed. They asked why medical shipments were moving to alien wards when Earth clinics still had waiting lists. They asked why construction crews were building shelters in the desert when Earth families still lived in storm-damaged blocks. They asked why the council could dump a crisis on Earth and call refusal immoral. Mara Keene became the voice of that anger. She was a regional civil leader from the settlements north of Red Basin, a woman with gray hair, a rough voice, and no patience for grand ideals that emptied local warehouses. She came to Harbor City on day 11 with a convoy of citizens and a live Earth media feed behind her. Owen met her at the supply gate because avoiding her would only make the wound deeper. "Commander Rourke," Mara said, "my district lost 2 water contracts this week. Our clinics were told to share staff with Harbor City. My people have waited years for infrastructure. Now the council throws strangers at Earth, and somehow we are told to be proud while our own repairs stop." Owen did not interrupt her. She pointed past him at the rising rows of shelters. "Tell me why an Earth family should believe this city will not be built on their back." The question cut harder because it was fair. Owen looked at the cameras, then back at Mara. "They should not believe it because I say so. They should believe it only if we build this in a way that leaves Red Basin stronger than it was." That is a slogan. No, it is a contract. Every water system we install here will connect to the northern grid when stable. Every clinic module we bring in will remain Earth property after expansion. Every refugee work crew will be paid under Earth emergency labor law. Every road we lay will serve your district too. And if you fail, then you can stand beside me on the council feed and say, "I failed you." Mara's expression shifted, but not into trust. "You are very calm for a man gambling with other people's anger." Owen looked toward Clinic Row. "I'm not calm. I am busy." That line spread across Earth. Some mocked it. Some respected it. Owen had no time for either. On day 13, Harbor City suffered its first riot. It began at a food station when sorry families were handed rations their bodies could not process. A Keth worker tried to explain that the correct crates had been moved. A Valen guard, exhausted and half-blind from the bright afternoon, mistook the crowd's surge for an attack. Someone threw a filter canister. Someone screamed that the Dren had poisoned the stock because that rumor had been seeded for 3 days by anonymous channels. By the time Owen reached the station, security lines had bent, 2 shelters were burning, and a council drone hovered low enough to catch every flame. "Hold the outer line," Owen ordered. No shock weapons unless there is direct threat to life. Translators forward. Medical teams behind the trucks. A deputy shouted over the noise. The council feed is live. Then let them see us put water on the fire. Owen climbed onto the side of a supply truck. Smoke stung his eyes. The crowd was not one thing. It was fear, hunger, grief, rumor, heat, and too many languages failing at once. He took the loudspeaker. "This station is closed for 12 minutes, he said. The crowd roared. 12 minutes, he repeated. Not because food is gone, because the labels are wrong, and wrong food can hurt people. Sorry, medical volunteers, to the left truck. Keth water crew, to the right line. Volun elders, I need 2 witnesses at the ration table. Drin crews, back away from the rumor line and help break the crates." For a moment, nothing changed. Then a sorry woman with shaking hands stepped forward. A Keth youth followed. 2 Volun elders approached, veils drawn. The Drin did not move until Owen looked directly at their leader, Tavar Noel. Tavar was taller than most humans, broad-shouldered, with dark ridged skin and eyes like polished stone. Council records had called him volatile. Owen had not yet heard him raise his voice. "Tavar," Owen said, "I need the crates opened. In public." Tavar held his gaze, then turned to his people. "Open them," he said. The Dren workers moved as one. They cracked the mislabeled crates and exposed ration packs stamped in Council Transit Code. Lena pushed through the smoke, scanned the labels, and cursed under her breath. "These were never meant for sorry," she told Owen. They knew. The drone above them tilted closer. Owen looked up and said nothing. "Let watch. Let it record the fire, the fear, and the people fixing what the council had made." By night, the station reopened. 2 people were in critical care. Dozens were injured. The council channels called it the Red Basin food riot before the last flames were out. Malvec appeared again, sorrowful and immaculate. "This is precisely why humanitarian work requires mature institutions," he said. "Earth has heart, but heart does not make a city." Owen watched the clip only once. Then he turned to Lena. "Find a transit authority that changed those labels." "I am trying. Try harder." She did not flinch. "I will." The next morning, Owen did something that made half his staff think he had finally lost patience with reality. He gave the refugees jobs. Not symbolic tasks. Not smiling photographs. Real authority inside Harbor City. Each district formed a resident council with Earth oversight, medical authority, conflict mediators, engineers, and work crews. Food sorting moved under mixed supervision. Shelter assignments were reviewed by people who knew the histories between groups. Translation desks were staffed by refugees who had lived through council processing before and understood which words made people panic. Mara Keen called him reckless. Malvec called it evidence that Earth had lost control. Owen called it the first honest day Harbor City had ever had. "You cannot build a city for people while keeping them outside the blueprint," he told his senior staff. The council sees a burden. "We need builders." The hardest decision involved the Dren. Council files marked them as high risk, non-compliant, unsuited for mixed settlement. Other refugees crossed roads to avoid them. Earth Security wanted them kept near the outer fence. Even some of Owen's own staff argued that using Dren crews would look terrible on camera. Owen asked for a private meeting with Tavar Noel at the edge of Red Basin, beyond the last row of shelters. The Dren leader arrived with 2 silent companions. He did not sit until Owen did. "You want something," Tavar said through a translator. "Yes. Most authorities do. I want to know why your people brought soil anchors, water knives, and root mesh instead of personal cargo." Tavar's expression did not change, but his companions looked at one another. Owen placed a map between them. Council records say the Dren are violent nomads. Council records were written by those who took our reservoirs. "What are you?" Tavar touched the map where Red Basin's dry channels cut through the salt flats. "We build where land has been murdered." The translator chose the word murdered. Owen did not correct it. Tavar explained in short, careful sentences. The Dren had survived on broken worlds by capturing night moisture, binding poison dust under layered root mats, and building low-pressure water systems that did not depend on deep wells. Their tools look severe because their worlds have been severe, Their discipline looked threatening because a mistake in dead land killed everyone. Owen listened. Then he pointed to the far eastern flats. Can you make that ground hold water? Tavar looked across the basin. Not in 60 days. Owen felt the answer land like a weight. Then Tavar added, but we can make it stop losing all of it. That was enough. The Dren trial site began on day 20. Earth crews hated the first design. It looked primitive beside imported council modules. It used low berms, black mesh, buried ceramic veins, and wind traps that sang at night. The Dren worked in silence, often before dawn and after sunset. Keth volunteers joined because humidity mattered to them. Sorry mechanics adapted pumps because the Dren pressure valves did not match Earth fittings. Volun shade builders covered the work lanes. For the first time, Harbor City made something no council shipment had provided. It made cooperation necessary. The council noticed. On day 23, a formal warning arrived. Earth was violating safe settlement procedure by allowing high-risk populations to alter infrastructure without full council review. Owen sent back a one-line response. Council review delivered the wrong food. Lena told him that line would make enemies. Owen said good. Then they can stop pretending we were friends. The Dren system worked for 46 hours before it failed. A pressure surge cracked one of the ceramic veins and flooded a low shelter row. No one died, but the images were ugly. Water rushed through half-built streets. Dren workers shouted. Earth crews slipped in the mud. Volun residents were carried toward dry ground. Malvec seized the footage within minutes. Earth has placed vulnerable refugees under experimental control by another unstable refugee group, he said. This is not inclusion. This is negligence. Inside the command tent, the staff argued until voices broke. Pull the Dren from infrastructure, one deputy said. We cannot let council frame this, another added. Mara Keen had come in from the northern district after the flood. She stood near the door, arms crossed. You gave them trust before the city could afford a mistake, she said. Owen looked at the flood map. The failed section glowed red. No, he said. I gave them responsibility. That means we fix the mistake with them watching, not behind their backs. They will blame Earth. They already do. They will blame you. He looked up. They should. I approved it. That evening he stood before Dren workers, flooded residents, Earth crews, and cameras from 3 worlds. Mud dried on his boots. The easy thing would have been to speak in careful phrases, share blame, and promise review. He did not. I made the call, Owen said. The system failed under pressure, and people were put in danger. That is on me. The crowd was silent, but not soft. He continued. But the answer is not to go back to waiting for council crates and broken files. The answer is to repair this in public, with every safety change recorded and every resident council present. A Volun woman shouted, and if the next mistake kills us? Owen turned toward her. Then you deserve the right to see who made it before anyone tells you. Whom to hate? That did not calm everyone. It did something more useful. It stopped the lie from choosing the target. The repair lasted through the night. Tavar stood beside Earth engineers, not behind them. The Volun residents sent 2 witnesses. Keth workers adjusted moisture screens. Sorry mechanics rebuilt the valve timing. At dawn, water moved again, slower but steady, into storage bladders beneath the eastern flats. A child would have called it a miracle. Owen did not. He knew what it was. It was people returning for the next shift. By day 32, Harbor City had districts. They were still ugly, still raw, still temporary in too many places. But people began giving directions without using emergency markers. Clinic Row, East Shade, the Keth Mist Line, Dren Works, Sorry Kitchens, Road 9. The old Salt Road became Basin Avenue because residents started calling it that before Earth planners approved the name. The first address plates arrived from a printer in the Northern District. They were simple pieces of weatherproof material, white letters on dark backing. Owen watched volunteers carry them through the streets in crates. He expected the moment to be useful. He did not expect it to stop people where they stood. A sorry man held one plate with both hands. It read Basin Avenue, Block 12, Door 6. He stared at it so long that the worker asked whether the translation was wrong. No, the man said. It is the first thing I've been given that tells me where to return. Word spread. People came out of shelters to watch the plates go up. Some laughed. Some cried quietly. Some touched the numbers as if testing whether they would vanish. Owen stood aside, uncomfortable with the emotion but unwilling to leave. Priya Sandoval came to stand beside him. You should let the cameras see this, she said. They will edit it into propaganda. Everything is propaganda to someone. This is also true. He nodded to the media team. They opened the feed. That evening, Earth saw the address plates. So did Council Space. Something shifted. Not enough to save them. Not yet. But enough that anonymous feeds stopped calling Harbor City a camp. Some still hated it. Some still feared it. But the word city began to appear without quotation marks. Mara came back on day 35. This time she did not bring a protest convoy. She brought plumbers, 2 mobile clinics, and a list of local workers willing to take paid contracts inside Harbor City. Owen met her at Basin Avenue. Is this support or inspection? He asked. Both, Mara said. My people still want answers. They should. They also saw the drain water system feeding the northern grid test tank. It is not stable yet. I did not say it was. I said we saw it. She looked past him, a line of earth workers and refugees unloading pipe. My district has young men and women who need work. Harbor City needs hands. I can sell that honestly. Owen allowed himself a small breath. What changed? Mara nodded toward the new address plates. A woman on your feed said her door number was the first promise she believed. My grandmother said the same thing after a flood took our town. I still think the council trapped us. I still think Earth should not have had to pay a loan. But I know a real town when people start arguing about street names. That was the closest she came to apology. Owen accepted it because useful truth mattered more than clean pride. The city grew faster after that. Not smoothly. Never smoothly. A fight over ration priority shut down sorry kitchens for 6 hours. 2 drain workers were attacked after a false rumor spread that they had hidden water. A council-flagged medical shipment arrived, missing the one enzyme needed by Keth infants. Owen nearly broke his hand against the storage wall when Lena confirmed the omission could not be accidental. But each crisis no longer fell on Earth alone. Resident councils began resolving disputes before security arrived. Mara's workers fixed pipes beside Volin shade teams. Keth humidity engineers designed better cooling for human medics. Sorry cooks adapted earth grains into food more species could tolerate. The Dren taught night crews how to read dust movement before filter storms. Harbor City was not peaceful. It was alive. On day 37, the council sent a compliance team. They arrived in white inspection suits that did not touch the dust and carried scanners shaped like narrow blades. Their leader was not Malvek, but his deputy, a polished administrator named Ilian Sor. Sor smiled at every camera and did not look directly at any refugee unless he needed a sample, a signature, or a failure. Owen met him at the outer gate with Mara, Lena, and 2 resident council witnesses. Sor looked at the witnesses first. One was Sela Ven. The other was a Volin shade maker named Eric Thorne, who had spent 3 weeks repairing shelters for people who had once feared him. Resident witnesses are not required for council inspection, Sor said. They are required for Harbor City inspection, Owen answered. Commander, the mandate recognizes Earth as custodian. It does not recognize improvised refugee governance. Owen kept his face still. That is one of the reasons it is failing them. Sor's smile thinned. He began the inspection at Clinic Row, where he counted patients without asking names. He moved through sorry kitchens, where he marked mixed staffing as a contamination risk until Priya showed him the revised medical boards. He paused at Dren Works and called the water system non-standard before Tavar invited him to drink from a council-issue tank instead. Sor declined. By afternoon, everyone understood the purpose of the visit. The compliance team was not looking for whether Harbor City lived. It was looking for language that would let the council call life illegal. At East Shade, Sor found his weapon. A Volin housing block had taken in several Keth families after a filter storm damaged Mistline Court. The arrangement was temporary, negotiated by both resident councils, and working better than expected because the Keth had built moisture barriers and the Valen had built light screens. To Soar, it was a violation. Unapproved, cross-humidity, cohabitation. He dictated into his recorder. Potential negligence by Earth Authority. The Valen elder who had once grabbed Owen's wrist stepped forward. We approved it, so look past him. Species consent is not valid without council environmental certification. The elder's voice sharpened through the translator. Then your certification would have left them outside in the storm. That is not the matter under review. It is the only matter that kept them alive. The cameras turned. So did not like that. He ordered the block cleared for formal reassessment. People froze. Owen stepped between him and the housing row. No. Soar's eyes lifted. Commander Rourke, refusal will be added to your compliance record. Add it. You are obstructing humanitarian oversight. I'm obstructing an order that would put 80 people outside for the comfort of a forum. Soar's calm voice lowered. You are very determined to give the council examples. Owen glanced toward the residents watching from doorways. He knew every word could hurt Earth later. He also knew that if he let the council uproot a working block for inspection theater, Harbor City would learn that its own agreements meant nothing. He turned to Sela. Did both resident councils approve this housing transfer? Yes. Did Earth Medical review it? Priya answered from behind him. Yes. Is anyone in acute danger right now? No. Owen looked back at Soar. Then it stays. Soar closed his recorder with slow precision. That night, Malvex channels ran the headline Earth Commander defies Council safety order. The clip showed Owen saying no. It did not show the storm, the damaged shelters, or the residents who had solved the problem before Council inspectors arrived. Mara found Owen outside the command tent after midnight. You gave them another weapon, she said. I know. Was there no quieter way? Maybe. That is not reassuring. Owen looked toward East Shade, where lamps glowed behind layered cloth. Quiet ways are useful when the system is confused. This system is not confused. It is hungry. Mara was silent for a moment. My district, watch the clip. Half think you're brave. Half think you're dragging Earth into a fight we cannot afford. What do you think? I think you're making enemies faster than you are making streets. Maybe streets are the reason we need enemies to show themselves. She studied him, then shook her head. That sounds like something a man says before he collapses. He almost smiled. If I collapse, make sure someone checks the west pumps. I'm serious, Owen. So am I. Her expression softened, not into comfort, but into recognition. You cannot be the wall for everyone. No, he said, but until the city has enough walls of its own, I can stand in the gap. The phrase spread the next day, though Owen had not meant it for anyone else. Workers painted it by hand on the inside of a supply depot, then argued whether it was too dramatic. The Dren corrected the wall supports while they argued. By day 39, the city had another problem. Not a shortage, not a riot, a rumor. Anonymous feeds claimed that Earth planned to use Harbor City as a labor pool after recognition. The lie was clever because it twisted something real. Owen had promised paid work and infrastructure contracts. The rumor said those contracts were a mask for permanent debt. Work crews slowed. Sorry Kitchens lost volunteers. Some Dren workers refused assignment until Tavar spoke with them. Sela asked for an open assembly at Memorial Square. Owen agreed, though his deputies warned that a public argument could make the city look unstable. It is unstable, Owen said. Better to let people see us handle truth than let lies handle us. The assembly drew thousands in person and more through local feeds. No banners, no ceremony, just residents, Earth workers, security teams, and translators repeating each sentence in staggered waves. Sela spoke first. We were processed by people who always said the next rule was for our safety. So when Earth offers contracts, some of us hear chains. Mara spoke next. Earth workers hear the same fear from the other side. They think refugees will be used to undercut wages. If we do not write the terms clearly, both groups will be turned against each other. Owen listened until the anger found its shape. Then he stepped onto the low platform. No one in Harbor City will be assigned forced labor, he said. No Earth worker will be replaced by unpaid refugee labor. Emergency work will be paid, recorded, and reviewed by mixed councils. Skilled training will belong to the worker, not the city. Debt will not be tied to food, shelter, or medical care. Adren, woman shouted. And when council takes us? Owen looked at her. That is what we are fighting to prevent. Words. Then put it in law. The crowd shifted. Owen turned to Mara. Can your office draft it with resident councils by morning? Mara's mouth tightened. By morning. You said my slogans needed contracts. For the first time in weeks, she gave him a hard little smile. Fine. We will make your life legally difficult by sunrise. They did. The Harbor Labor Charter was rough, urgent, and imperfect, but it did one important thing. It made fear answerable to language people could hold. Earth workers signed beside refugees. Resident councils recorded objections. Copies were posted beside ration boards and address maps. The council channels ignored the charter. Harbor City did not. After that, Owen noticed a new kind of sound in the streets. Not peace. Negotiation. People bargained over shifts, disputed tool access, argued about drainage, and laughed in exhausted bursts when translators mangled insults into compliments. It was not the sound of a rescue operation anymore. It was the sound of residents making trouble because they expected tomorrow to exist. The worst night came on day 41. A power converter failed at the main clinic during a windstorm. The backup line should have carried the load. It did not. Later, Lena would find that the replacement couplings shipped by council contractors were rated for a lower draw than labeled. In the moment, all Owen knew was that the clinic went dark while 3 surgical rooms were active and 200 patients depended on powered air systems. The wind hit the walls like thrown gravel. Owen reached the clinic through dust so thick that his mask clogged twice. Inside, emergency lights glowed red along the floor. Priya was shouting triage assignments. A volunteer technician was hand-pumping air for a Keth patient. Dren workers were already lifting a converter casing with manual braces. How long? Owen asked. Priya did not look away from her patient. For some of them, minutes. The backup generator sat across a flooded service cut because the storm had driven water into the unfinished channel. Earth crews could not move it safely. The Dren could, but their route crossed a volunteer shelter zone where fear of them was still high. In a normal city, Owen would have called 3 departments and waited for clearance. In Harbor City, waiting was another way to choose who died. He found Tavar at the service entrance. Can your crew move the generator? Yes. Through East Shade, Tavar understood the problem. They will panic. Then we go first. So Owen Rourke, civilian commander of Earth Reconstruction, walked into East Shade with Tavar Knoll beside him while storm dust hammered the roofs. He carried no weapon. Tavar carried no tool that could be mistaken for one. Volun residents stepped into the narrow lane. Some shouted. Some backed away. One old man raised a metal brace in both hands. Owen lifted his palms. The clinic is losing power, he said. Dren crews can move the generator. I'm asking you to let them pass. A woman cried. They flooded our row. Tavar answered before Owen could. Yes, our system failed. We repaired it with your witnesses present. Tonight, if we do nothing, patients die. The translator carried his words into the storm. The old man did not lower the brace. Why should we trust you? Tavar looked at him. Do not trust me. Walk beside me and watch. That was the sentence that opened the lane. Volun residents walked with the Dren through East Shade, not behind them and not under guard. Earth workers pulled the generator. Sorry mechanics fitted couplings by touch in the dust. Keth volunteers held moisture shields over open panels. Mara Keen's northern plumbers arrived with portable lamps and cursed like every exhausted worker on Earth. The clinic lights came back one wing at a time. Not everyone survived the night. Owen sat on the floor outside Bay 4 before dawn and read the names to himself because he refused to let numbers take their place. Priya found him there, face gray with fatigue. You cannot carry all of them, she said. I signed for all of them. That is not the same. It is close enough. She sat beside him. For a while neither spoke. Outside, the storm cleared. On Basin Avenue, People began replacing address plates blown loose in the wind. The next day, Malvek filed the hearing request. The council notice arrived in formal language. It cited instability, preventable injury, unauthorized resident governance, improper use of high-risk groups and infrastructure, and failure to meet projected humanitarian safety ratios. Owen Rourke was ordered to appear before the Galaxy Council on day 57. Earth would answer whether Harbor City deserved recognition or dissolution under the stability mandate. The city had 3 days to become evidence. Earth officials offered to send a diplomat instead. Owen refused. "This is not a treaty disagreement," he said in the command tent. "This is a city they try to break. I made the calls. I answer." Lena looked up from her data wall. "If you go, Malvek will make you the face of every death. He already has. He will bury us in numbers. Then we show what the numbers try to hide." She understood. Her eyes moved to the live city map, where green marks showed functioning water lines, clinics, kitchens, resident councils, paid work crews, and registered addresses. "I have the proof," she said. "Not all of it clean enough for court. Enough to show pattern." "Hold it." Lena frowned. "Hold it. If we start with sabotage, he will call it technical confusion. He will drag it into committee review for a year. We start with the city. And if they cut the feed, then the whole galaxy will watch them refuse to look." Owen spent his last night before departure walking Harbor City. He passed the first market, where Sari cooks served adapted grain cakes to Earth workers and Keth children. He passed East Shade, where Valen residents had hung dark fabric between lamps to soften the light. He passed Dren Works, where Tavar's crews had built a water gauge out of salvage and stubbornness. He passed the memorial wall. The wall had been Lena's idea and the residents' demand. It stood near the center of the city, made from Red Basin stone and printed plates. Names were arranged by the day people reached Earth, not by species, rank, or council category. Some plates held only a description when no name survived. The city remembered all who had been lost without turning. Grief into spectacle. Sela Vin stood before the wall. She was Sari, a former cargo clerk from a ruined Port Moon, and one of the first residents to help repair ration records. She had lost her family during council transfer before the ships reached Earth. Owen had seen her speak in council meetings with a steadiness that made loud people quiet. "You are leaving tomorrow," she said. "For the hearing, they will call us unstable. Yes. They will say you failed us. Yes." She turned from a wall. "Did you?" Owen answered honestly. "Some days." Sela studied him. "Council officers never say that. I am not a council officer." "No. You gave us doors that open from the inside." The sentence stayed with him longer than he wanted it to. Before dawn, Harbor City sent him off without ceremony. People were working. That mattered more. The Galaxy Council chamber was not built to feel like a room. It was built to feel like history had already chosen its owners. Owen entered on day 57 with dust still in the seams of his formal jacket. Around him rose tiers of delegates from hundreds of worlds, their seats arranged by seniority, treaty class, and old power. Earth sat low in the chamber, not at the bottom, but close enough to understand the message. Malvek waited at the central dais with the calm patience of someone who had prepared the floor. "Commander Owen Rourke of Earth," the presiding voice announced, "you have been called to answer charges of humanitarian instability under the stability mandate." Owen stood alone at the witness mark. Earth had legal advisors present, but he had asked them to remain seated unless procedure required them. If the council wanted a face to blame, he would give them one that did not look away. Malvek began gently. "Commander Rourke, no one here doubts that many humans wish to do good. The question before us is whether good intentions have placed vulnerable lives in greater danger." He lifted one elegant hand, and the chamber filled with images. The food riot, the flooded Dren site, Valen patients gasping in Clinic Row, Earth protesters shouting at supply gates, mud, smoke, panic, stretchers, broken shelters. Each clip was real. Each clip was cut before the repair. Malvek spoke over them. "These are not rumors. These are documented incidents under Earth authority. Harbor City has suffered ration failure, medical overload, interspecies violence, unauthorized infrastructure alteration, and preventable mortality. Compassion without stability is cruelty. The Council must intervene before Earth pride costs more lives. The chamber murmured. Owen listened without moving. Anger would help Malvek. Shame would help him more. Owen held both down. A delegate from an older world asked, "Commander, do you dispute the incidents shown?" "No." The murmurs grew. Owen continued, "I dispute the story built from them." Malvek tilted his head. "A story does not injure patients, Commander. Mismanagement does." "No," Owen said. "Wrong files do. Delayed supplies do. Fear does. So does a system that moves people like cargo and calls the damage neutral procedure." Malvek almost smiled. "If Earth intends to accuse the Council, this chamber will require evidence beyond frustration. We have evidence. Then present it. Not first." For the first time, Malvek's expression changed. Owen looked toward the presiding tier. "Before this chamber decides whether Harbor City is a failure, I ask that it look at Harbor City as it exists now, not only as Council edits preserved it." The presiding delegate hesitated. "You request a live civilian feed?" "Yes." Malvek turned slightly. "That is irregular. Live feeds can be staged. So could selected recordings," Owen said. A few delegates reacted. Not loudly, but enough. The presiding voice conferred with clerks. Then the central air above the chamber opened into a live image from Earth. Red Basin filled the room. At first, Owen heard only the wind. The feed hovered over Harbor City in morning light. It was not beautiful in the way wealthy planets like to display beauty. Its roads were rough. Its roofs were mismatched. Some walls were still temporary panels. Dust moved between structures. The hospital expansion was wrapped in scaffolds. The eastern flats were striped with black drain mesh and earth pipe. But the city was awake. Water trucks moved along Basin Avenue. Lamps glowed under shade cloth. A Keth crew checked moisture screens while two human workers adjusted valves. Sorry cooks opened a kitchen window. Valen residents hung light filters over a clinic entrance. Dren builders stood with earth engineers around a pressure gauge, arguing with the intensity of people who expected the system to matter tomorrow. The feed lowered to street level. Address plates lined the doors. Basin Avenue, Block 3, Door 11. East Shade, Row 4, Door 2. Mistline Court, Unit 7. Dren Works, North Yard. The chamber grew quieter. Owen saw delegates lean forward. It was easy to dismiss a mass. Harder to dismiss a street. Mara Keene appeared on the feed, standing beside a Northern District work crew. "My name is Mara Keene," she said. "I oppose Harbor City because my own people were short on water, clinics, and work. I still believe the Council forced Earth into an unjust burden. But this city is now feeding a new water line into my district, paying Earth workers, and keeping people alive who were delivered here with broken records. If this is failure, then the Council should explain why its successful systems left these people with less." Malvek's jaw tightened. The feed shifted to Clinic Row. Priya Sandoval stood in a crowded ward. "This hospital is overworked," she said. "We have lost patients. We have also treated species whose correct medical files were not given to us. Our survival rate improved when residents began correcting Council records with live knowledge. That is not chaos. That is a city learning faster than the system that abandoned them." Then Sela Vin stepped into view near the memorial wall. Owen had not known she would speak. Her hands were steady, but her eyes held the tiredness of someone who had spent too long being counted by people who did not remember her name. "My name is Sela Vin," she said. "Before Earth, I had a transfer code. Before that, I had a home. The Council lost the second and gave me the first." No one in the chamber spoke. Sela continued. "They sent us here to break Earth. Earth gave us a street address. And once we had an address, we stopped being cargo. We became neighbors." The words landed. Harder than any accusation. Owen saw in the chamber. Some delegates looked away. Some looked at Malvek. Some looked at Earth as if seeing it not as a young member world, but as a place where a claim had become pavement. Sela touched the memorial wall behind her. "This city is not perfect. We know that better than anyone. But it has doors that open from the inside. It has people who answer when we ask where we belong. If the Council dissolves Harbor City, do not say you are protecting us. Say you're taking away the first place that let us help build our own future. The feed ended on the address plates. Only then did Owen turn back to the Council. Now, I will present the evidence. Lena's data package opened across the chamber in layers simple enough for every listener to follow. First, the medical files. Earth had received Volin humidity tolerances that contradicted older Council-held records. The Council records were correct. Earth had been given the wrong set. Second, the ration labels. Sorry nutritional crates had been overwritten during transit under a Council contractor code. The wrong food had gone to the one group most likely to suffer from it. Third, the Dren classification. Council files marked them unstable without incident logs, while archive settlement records showed Dren communities had built survival systems on 3 dead worlds. The context had been stripped, leaving only fear. Fourth, the supply delays. Critical couplings and medical enzymes had been routed through slower stations despite emergency priority, then cited by Council monitors as Earth shortages. Fifth, the media contracts. Several channels that aired Harbor City riot footage under neutral banners had received funding from a policy foundation tied to Malvec's own humanitarian stability block. Lena had arranged each point with brutal clarity. No mace. No academic fog. Cause, effect, consequence. Owen let the evidence stand before he spoke. Harbor City made mistakes, he said. I made some of them. Earth will account for every life lost under our care. But this chamber must answer a larger question. Why did the Council send people to Earth with records that made them harder to keep alive? Why did it mislabel food, strip histories, slow supplies, and then broadcast the suffering as proof of human failure? Malvec rose. This is a desperate attempt to redirect responsibility. Owen looked at him. No, this is responsibility reaching the people who designed the test. Malvec turned to the presiding tier. The commander is emotional. Yes, Owen said. I am. I have read the names on the wall. But the pipes are not emotional. The shipping codes are not emotional. The payment records are not emotional. The dead are not emotional because they no longer get to be. The chamber fell still. For once, Malvec had no clean sentence ready. A delegate from the Lume worlds requested recognition. Her name was Nera Sol, and her people had long been treated as a minor civilization under Council resource law. She stood slowly, thin and bright-eyed, with a voice that carried without force. If the Council can engineer failure on Earth under the language of humanitarian protection, then no small world is safe under that language, she said. I move for immediate suspension of the dissolution order and independent review of the stability mandate. Another delegate stood, then another. Not all, not even most at first, but enough for the chamber's balance to shift. Malvec's allies argued procedure. They called for closed review, delayed judgment, confidentiality, and technical assessment. Those words had protected them for years. Now, every delay sounded like fear of sunlight. The presiding council could not ignore the live feed, the evidence, or the growing block of worlds demanding review. The decision came after hours of debate. Harbor City would not be dissolved. Earth would retain protective authority pending independent oversight. Residents would not be separated by species classification without consent and due cause. The stability mandate would enter formal investigation. Councillor Ver Malvec would step aside from the Humanitarian Stability Committee until review concluded. It was not the fall of the Galaxy Council. It was not justice complete. It was a door forced open in a wall that had stood too long. Owen accepted it because cities were not built by wishing for perfect ground. When the hearing ended, Malvec approached him near the lower exit. Without the central lights on him, he looked older but not weaker. You have won a difficult concession, Malvec said. Owen studied him. Harbor City won it. You think this changes the council? No, I think it changes what the council can do quietly. Malvec's silver eyes narrowed. Earth is still young. Yes, young worlds often mistake one public victory for power. Owen stepped closer, lowering his voice. and old systems often mistake silence for consent. For a moment, neither moved. Then Malvek turned away. Owen returned to Earth on day 61. The first message from outside Earth reached the city before the dust had settled from the hearing. It came from a mining moon that had never spoken publicly against the council. Then came another from a water-poor colony near the Vale Roads. Then a third from a border hospital that had treated refugees for years without recognition. None of them offered poetry. They offered records, witness lists, and quiet thanks. They said Harbor City had made something visible that many worlds have been afraid to name. The council's clean procedures could be challenged. Its categories could be questioned. Its humanitarian language could be forced to face the people beneath it. Owen read the messages in the command tent, while Lena sorted new evidence requests from half a dozen worlds. "This will get bigger," she said. "That is not always better." "No, but it means they cannot bury it in one committee." Mara stood near the door, listening. "My district council voted this morning. The Northern Water Extension stays linked to Harbor City." Owen looked up. "Even after the review warning? Especially after it. They said if the council wants to inspect our pipes, it can bring boots that touch dirt." Lena laughed first. Owen followed a second later, though the sound felt strange after so many days of holding himself rigid. For the first time, the fight was not only Earth defending a trapped city. Other worlds were beginning to see their own names in Harbor City's address plates. Harbor City did not stop working to welcome him. That was how he knew it was becoming real. Buses still moved. Pumps still failed. Kitchens still argued about supply counts. Families passed through streets together, and elders sat in shade where there had been only dust weeks before. Workers shouted across trenches. Resident councils complained about schedules. A city with no complaints was either dead or lying. Mara met him at the landing strip. "You look terrible," she said. "You should see the other side." I did. The whole planet did. They walked toward Basin Avenue. New signs had gone up while he was gone. Not polished signs. Working signs. Clinic Row. East Shade. North Grid. Memorial Square. The names sounded ordinary, and that made them powerful. At the memorial wall, Sila Vin waited with Tavar, Priya, Lena, and a crowd that did not try to look ceremonial. Some were crying. Some were arguing softly about where to place the next row of names. One Dren worker was fixing a crooked address plate during the gathering because apparently dignity did not excuse poor alignment. Owen almost smiled. Sila handed him a small plate. It was not a medal. Harbor City had no use for medals yet. It was an address plate. Basin Avenue, Civic House, Door 1. Council recognition came through, Sila said. The registry asked for the administrative center address. Owen looked at the plate. "You chose Civic House. The resident councils chose it. You said it was not a camp. Cities need houses where people argue legally." Tavar added, and loudly. Mara said, especially loudly. For the first time in many days, Owen felt the pressure inside his chest loosen. He took the plate, but he did not mount it himself. He handed it to a human worker, a Dren builder, a Valen shade maker, a Keth water engineer, and a Sari clerk. Together, they fixed it beside the door of the unfinished administration hall. The crowd did not cheer at first. They watched the screws go in. They watched the plate settle. Then the sound rose, not as one voice, but as many different voices deciding to share the same moment. Owen stood back. He thought of Red Basin before the ships. Empty flats. Dead farms. Dust moving over ground Earth had failed to save once. He thought of the council calling people transfer units, of Malvek's polished sorrow, of wrong files and delayed supplies, of nights when the city had almost gone dark for good. Then he looked at the streets. They were rough. They were crowded. They were not enough yet, but they had names. The council had sent a crisis to Earth and called it mercy. It had sent lives across the stars as weight, proof, and trap. It had expected tents, riots, shame, and a young world begging to be excused. Humanity had answered with valves, beds, kitchens, clinics, work crews, resident councils, and address plates. Not perfectly, not painlessly, not without loss, but with enough stubborn dignity to make a city where a weapon had been meant to land. By evening, The lights came on across Harbor City. One row at a time, the streets brightened against the dark basin. Each shade glowed soft under its filters. Mist-lined courts shimmered with controlled humidity. Drainworks pulsed with low amber lamps over water tanks. Basin Avenue carried people home from shifts, meetings, clinics, kitchens, repairs, and arguments that would continue tomorrow because tomorrow now belonged to them too. Owen stood near the command trench that had become the first buried water main. Lena joined him with 2 cups of Bitterfield coffee. Final registry count came in, she said. How bad? Messy. Incomplete. Alive. That sounds like a city. She handed him a cup. The council review will take months. Malvec still has allies. I know. Harbor City will still have shortages. I know. People will still blame you for things that break. Owen took a sip and made a face. This coffee may be one of them. Lena laughed, tired and quiet. For a while, they watched the lights. Owen knew the story would travel badly in some places. Some would say Earth had been reckless. Some would say the council had only made administrative mistakes. Some would say Harbor City was a stunt, a symbol, a temporary exception. Old power never surrendered its language easily. But somewhere beyond Earth, a small world would see the feed and know the council could be challenged. Somewhere, a refugee still trapped in a processing lane would hear that a city existed where transfer codes had become addresses. Somewhere, the word human would carry a new weight, not because humans had conquered, but because they had built under pressure while the galaxy watched. Mara once asked Owen what kind of civilization Earth wanted to become. He had not answered then, because the answer was not a sentence. Now it stood in the basin below him. A city built on one of Earth's own scars. A city made by people who had been sent to break it. A city that had forced the Galaxy Council to look at what its clean language had tried to hide. The first city of return did not prove that humanity was pure. It proved something harder and maybe more useful. When handed a burden, humans could build a system around it. When handed strangers, they could make room for neighbors. When handed a trap, they could turn the ground beneath it into streets. The city would still argue with him. It would still disappoint itself. It would still wake some mornings to broken pumps, frighten new arrivals, angry citizens, and council notices written in language too clean for the dirt beneath people's shoes. Owen did not mistake recognition for safety. But recognition had changed the shape of danger. Before, Harbor City had been a temporary burden waiting for judgment. Now it was a place that could answer back. It had records, councils, witnesses, streets, and people across the stars who knew its name. That was not enough to end the struggle. It was enough to make erasing the city difficult. And when the oldest powers in the galaxy asked what gave Earth the right to speak for dignity, Earth no longer had to answer with a speech. It could give them an address and a city still breathing behind it. When the council sent millions of broken lives to Earth, they expected collapse. They expected fear, anger, and failure. But humanity did something the galaxy had forgotten was possible. We did not turn a crisis into a weapon. We turned it into streets, homes, names, and a future. Harbor City was not perfect. It was tired, wounded, unfinished, and still standing. And maybe that is what made it human. Because humanity has never been measured by how cleanly we avoid suffering. We're measured by what we build when suffering reaches our door. If this story stayed with you, please leave a like. It helps more than you know. Share it with someone who believes science fiction should still carry heart, courage, and meaning. And if you want more stories where humanity stands before the galaxy and refuses to be broken, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening. Until the next story, remember this. A civilization is not proven by the power it holds. It is proven by the lives it refuses to throw away.